So my name's Ollie. I work for UK Music as the Director of Education and Skills. UK Music is the collective voice of the UK's world-leading music industry. We represent all sectors of our industry. You can check out our website, ukmusic.org. You'll get a really good understanding of what all our members do. But we bring them together to collaborate, campaign, and champion music. I started out when I was about 15, taught myself guitar, played in lots of bands, toured around a lot, ended up teaching young people a bit of music, and I got interested in education and did things like a degree and a master's and a PhD, and ended up then moving into this job, which is quite interesting because we sort of work with politicians and we talk about music and the importance of music and try and support the music industry. So if you're interested in that side of things, you can check out our website, like I said, ukmusic.org, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I'll go around the panel now and ask everyone to introduce themselves. So if we can start with Chloe, explain a little bit about what you do and what your role is, please. Thank you.
Yep. Hello, I'm Chloe, and I'm a musician and composer at Rare. So I write music for Sea of Thieves and then any projects that we have at Rare in general. And my role is also to implement a lot of the music into the game engine. I started off really young. I was classically trained from when I was like 4 years old, and then went into uni to study a degree. And then luckily enough, I managed to get into an internship at Rare. And since then, 4 years ago, I've been here ever since, really. So that's a really short intro. Hope that's okay.
Great, thanks, Chloe. We'll come back to that in a bit. Bree next.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. So my name's Bree. I am an international product manager at AWOL, a record label. I guess you can kind of interchange international product manager with an international marketing manager. So that's the department I work under, international marketing. And basically here at AWOL, all of our artists get like a UK marketing manager, a US marketing manager, and then an international one. And so I look after the rest of the world and basically take whatever we're doing in the US and the UK, and I make it make sense for all the other regions in the world, so Southeast Asia, Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East, you name it. So that's my day-to-day. It can be very early and very late starts, but it's really exciting. Gosh, I ended up in the music industry via an internship as well. I actually went to the Brit School, so I was a musician, still am a musician, can play, but was really interested in like the contracts and copyright and the industry side of things. So I went on to study a degree at Hertfordshire, a music industry management degree, and then did an internship at Sony, went into the international marketing team there, and then jumped over to AWOL 2 years ago.
Great, thanks a lot, Bree. And just finish off, Del.
Morning, everyone. My name's Dylan. I'm a freelance audio engineer / music producer. I've been doing this for probably about 4 or 5 years now. My kind of main roles are working with musicians to bring their kind of music to life, really, whether that's a track with a band they're working on or individuals working on their own music. The other sort of side to a lot of my work is teaching. I'm a teacher with Access Creative College, where I teach young people, I'm sure like many of you watching, music technology to work towards a career in that kind of area of the industry. Yeah, I've got a degree with Nottingham Trent University in audio and music technology, and I've always had a passion for music. I've been a musician from a young age, similarly to lots of the rest of us. Played in bands, still play a little bit as well, so sort of feeds that all into one, really. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Dylan. One of the things we'll touch on today, and the careers work we do does focus on, is the fact that not everyone in the industry plays an instrument. You don't need to be a musician to get a career. Obviously, I think a lot of our interests often start from that place, though, don't they? But you know, out there in the classrooms, you know, you'll be listening to music. You'll have your favourite artists, your favourite bands. That might inspire you to think about a career in music. And at the end of this, we'll be sharing a careers lesson plan that we've put together that helps you and your teachers and your careers advisors sort of explore the different areas that's available. So I wanted to chat just quickly about what your average days look like. I know they'll all be very different. So Chloe, if we come back to you, what do you do in a day, and how does your week look, and who do you work with, and what kind of things are you putting together?
Yeah. So my average day it varies a lot. It depends on what's going on at the time. But because I'm an in-house composer, I work very closely with all the game designers and all of the animation lot. So all of the different departments I work very closely with. But in terms of a day-to-day, it's more wake up, press the PC on, and then get all the dev builds running, all downloaded, and then I'll go in and test and see what is needed. And then I'll go into doing some of the creative stuff, so all the composing stuff, and then once that's all done, I can put it into the game. So that's all testing in the game, putting it into Wise middleware and all of the more technical stuff, and then any composing stuff if that's needed. And yeah, I mean, and just a lot of back to forth with other departments just to talk about, also this cutscene needs so and so, or maybe this isn't quite working, can we change it, and all of that. So it's just a lot of liaising between different departments, also in creative work as well.
Well, and what's been your favourite game you've worked on so far, or your moment you go, oh wow, this is really interesting, this one?
So recently we've just released a Monkey Island DLC with the Sea of Thieves. So that's the one that's most pressing on my mind, that's on top of it. So just working alongside Disney and making sure that their IP is also recognizing our IP as well. So that's been very creatively different to what we usually do.
Oh, great. And just to explain to everyone, IP is intellectual property. So it's a real foundation of how people make a living in creative industries and how you protect what you create. So again, that's mentioned a bit in the lesson plan. Bree, how about you? What's your sort of average day, if there is such a thing in the music industry?
Honestly, if there is, no, to be fair, for me, I'm very much office based. Obviously, working with all these teams across the world, it makes sense for me to be in one place, kind of on emails. But yeah, I'm talking to the East first thing in the morning, catching their end of the day, and then during the day, it's normally coming up with brainstorms and campaigns to push new music, new albums, kind of like whatever point we are at in an artist campaign. I'm usually working with these international teams, making sure that we're aligned with the UK and the US. And the end of my day usually wraps up with America. They're starting their day, I'm ending it, and kind of feeding that information to them. And then sometimes, yes, it's amazing, I do get to travel as well and actually work with these teams face to face.
Great. And what kind of elements sort of make up those campaigns? Can you go into a little bit of detail about the assets maybe, or you mentioned brainstorming, what kind of things come into it?
Absolutely. Well, it always starts with the music. So we normally have music delivered, and it's usually a whole project. And so we've got like a track by track, which is basically the artist will just give us information on what each song is about. And so from then we can now brainstorm, okay, well, what's a good timeline? What's the distance between releasing the first single and the second single? When does the project come out? What else is happening in that time of year? Is it busy? So we literally just start with the music and we can just create a campaign from that, really.
Excellent. Cool. Brilliant. Thanks so much. Dylan, so I mean, you work directly with artists. It'd be great to hear, you move from live into recorded a bit more. Talk us through it. What's your average day? Is there one? How's it working with artists?
Yeah. Is there an average day? Probably somewhere in there. Yeah. So a lot of my average day is spent in here where I am now in my studio. Whether that's directly with an artist who's in the room with me, and we're working, starting from the ground up, building a piece of music with them, or whether that's me opening up, up to 7, 8, 9 different projects across the course of the day to make edits and revisions, and then sort of remain in contact with those artists over the internet. It could be with a Zoom call like this one, where we meet up like that if the artist is working from a distance, or anything like that. My days can vary in length. Sometimes I start very early and finish very late. Like Ollie said, my days primarily used to be filled with being in live sound, so mixing bands at shows. That still happens a little bit. So sometimes I can be sort of, in the studio from 8:30, 9 o'clock till maybe 2 p.m. and then go to a venue and be there until, early hours of the morning. So sometimes those average days are fueled by a lot of coffee. But yeah, a lot of my average days is in direct contact with musicians and artists. So there's a lot of working with them to kind of understand their visions and that kind of stuff in their music. Tuning my brain to different genres of music, that kind of stuff, and kind of really having an open mind to be ready for anything to work on in that sense.
Great, cool. I mean, I've spent a little bit of time in studios and obviously talked to a lot of producers and artists. And I guess one of the things that is interesting to me is producers often bring a lot to the table when the recording's happening, because you're making a lot of decisions, aren't you, that influence the sound, and you're inputting a bit. Do you mind talking a bit about that? Different microphones and, you know,
for sure.
Songs.
So typically prior to this kind of maybe choose a scenario. If I'm going to record a track with a band, I'm going to record their next single maybe. Prior to that kind of session, we've agreed on a date or a bunch of dates. Prior to that, I'll either attend a rehearsal session with them or have them, if I can't attend a session for whatever reason, if we can't make that work, I'll have them send me a demo, whether that's a phone recording or something they've worked from home. You find now in today's climate, a lot of musicians are quite handy with maybe Logic on their laptop. So they've got something they've worked on already. And straight off the bat there, I position myself in a kind of mindset to listen to that piece of music and think about what it needs and equally what it doesn't need. So are there things in there that I'm not necessarily sure about? Are there things that I think maybe are missing? So for example, I worked on a track not so long ago where the track was really excellent, but I felt it was missing like a really kind of key kind of top line for the guitar. So the first thing I sort of sat down was listening to the demo, just me in my room, picked up a guitar and started to work on something that I could then give back to the artist and say, what do you think about this? So it can be quite a fine line sometimes. You've got to be careful that the artist doesn't think that you're trying to kind of step all over their work. As long as you're kind of on the same page and the artist is aware that you know, as a producer, I'm here to help them and here to make the best out of their great music anyway, then we can achieve some really good things. But yeah, so a lot of it is about that kind of direct relationship and everyone being on the same page to work towards that final goal, that kind of you know, common goal of a great piece of music.
Great, cool. That really helps explain it to everyone watching. Thank you so much. I wanted to hear from each of you about how you got in. We mentioned university a bit. I'll talk a bit about apprenticeships as well, but just super quickly, maybe we'll start with you, Chloe. Just explain your route in and what helped along the way.
Yep. So my route in was via an internship, which I actually initially applied for in my third year of uni, which I did get through to the first interviews, and then I was cut because it didn't really go too well, obviously. And then I tried again once I graduated because I saw in a little fine print that it was you can try again after you graduate. So I tried again. They remembered me from last time, and that was how they saw the development from my failed previous interview to where I was then. And then so yeah, that was my route into the games industry.
Great stuff. And the internship, obviously the internships exist. There's a lot of opportunities out there to get some paid work experience. So if you're thinking about a way in, really worth trying to look at those opportunities, definitely. And what did you study, Chloe, at uni?
I studied music and sound for image in Huddersfield Uni, so it was a little bit more specialized than just a bog standard music one.
Oh, right, okay, brilliant. Bree, how did you get in? What did you study?
Yeah, so similar to Chloe, actually, I came into the industry via an internship. That was after, studying at Hertfordshire. I studied music industry management. What I will say, though, is that alongside all of my studies, I would argue, so even at the Brit School, which was like year 12 and 13, so sixth form college times, as well as at uni, I was doing a lot of extra work outside, more so just to find out what I was into and what I wasn't into, because I wasn't sure what sector of the music industry I even wanted to specialize in. So I thought, okay, let's try A&R. Wasn't really feeling that. I did a few live bits, wasn't into that. And a lot of it, some were paid, some were free, but it was just offering my time. Hey, can I help at the door? Hey, can I be part of the next event? Just kind of offering my time and services. But that really helped me whittle it down to marketing. And I knew, okay, that's definitely what I want to specialize in. Funnily enough, my internship wasn't actually in marketing, but I think them seeing, you know, the efforts that I had made to try and hone a skill in the music industry, they were just appreciative of that. So when there was an opportunity, they were like, just get your foot in the door. It was in the music video team. But they were like, because you've had such a colored and kind of vast experience, we can hone, you know, we can develop these skills until you're ready to find your marketing role. And luckily that's how it worked out for me.
Great stuff, brilliant. And you mentioned there sort of like getting experience, You know,
Yeah.
everyone watching this, you know, you can work with your friends. I started out playing gigs in my school, you know, my mates helping me cart amps around, all that kind of stuff, you know, the usual sort of thing. So you know, you can start doing it wherever you are now. A lot of you are probably doing it already. Just be wary if someone's asking you to do too much for no pay. That's when you really need to protect yourself and be aware that, you know, be aware of that situation. So just look out for that. Dylan, how about you? How did you come into it? Was it a degree, and mentioned Access Creative College, or?
Yeah, so I've always, like I said, I've always kind of had a passion for music, music in general. I came up in a very musical family. I have always enjoyed listening to music. Started maybe understanding or wanting to have an understanding in the kind of music tech side of things during high school, I would say. However, there was arguably not a lot of outlet for that at school. However, school did help me learn about, like you said, Ollie, Access Creative College, where I studied 2 years on doing an extended diploma in studio and live sound. And following that, did my degree there in audio music tech. During all of that time, you know, I was using what I was learning on the courses to help me go out and kind of do as much work as I could, and essentially network with people, talk to people. Managed to get a job as a technician in one of the local venues here, which really helped me just kind of meet people. And during my time there, I then decided to have a go at some freelance work in the big scary world of freelance. Yeah, kind of grew from there really. But I think the main thing is of how I sort of got to do more and more of this stuff is talking to people, and you know, like Brie was saying, putting yourself out there, and just you know, whittling it down to not, you know, doesn't always, if you're doing that kind of stuff, doesn't always have to be you know, the exact thing that you think you want to do. You know, put yourself out there, try different avenues. You know, like we said earlier, I was working in live sound for a long time, but I kind of decided that actually studio is for me. So these things change, but yeah, a lot of putting myself out there and combining that with education, I've ended up in a lucky position.
Yeah, cool. And you mentioned the word freelance there, of course. So everyone watching this, freelance is where you're your own boss, really. You invoice people. You send them the form saying, I did X amount of work for you, so you need to pay me X amount of money, rather than somebody paying you a salary every month. So there's a bit of difference. You're your own business, but it's I think about 70%, or certainly a lot of people in the music industry are freelance. So definitely worth getting to know that term and how that works. I mean, when we talk about uni school, I had a question coming. I'll try and start working through the questions a bit now from the audience, because we've got about 10 minutes. Someone's interested in what GCSEs you did. I mean, Dylan, you talked about college course already. Brie and Chloe, did you do GCSEs around music, or other level 2 or level 3 qualifications in music, or was it more broader than that?
So in terms of GCSEs, I just did a lot of the bog standard stuff. So you know, having to do the 3 sciences, the maths, English, yada yada. But also on the ones I chose, the ones that really correlate only is just the music GCSE. And then in terms of A level music and music tech A level as well, and media. But I'd say if we're talking about A levels, I would say if you're doing really badly in terms of grade wise, don't let that put you down, because I feel like the way that A level music and music tech is graded doesn't always correlate to how you actually are, but it's just the way they can band it so that they can mark it in a way.
Okay.
Yeah, just to echo that, I did music GCSE as well, and then obviously went to the Brit School, so there was a diploma for music, but I did English A levels. But I would say, yeah, definitely don't let the grade kind of get you down, especially if you could supplement that with experience. And let's say if you are putting on those gigs with your friends and, you know, helping organizations run events and stuff like that, I think that will obviously balance it out. So yeah, not to let the grades kind of hold you back in any way.
Definitely, yeah, cool. And also be aware, you can always come back to it later. I actually did my grade 5 theory with the Open University when I was about 30. So you can come back to it later. Don't panic. Yeah, if it's a lifelong interest, music. So it is like that. By the way, some questions have been put in the chat, which I'll try and get to. But if you can pop questions in the Q&A, it just helps me keep track of it. But I'll have a look through the chat shortly. Another question here: what routes are there for disabled and neurodiverse people into the music industry? Just quickly, I'll mention the amazing organisation Attitude Is Everything. If you check them out, they support a lot of neurodiversity and a lot of disabled people and artists. audience and artists. So they do a load of great work. So worth checking them out if that's a particular interest. Just out of interest, my colleague actually Andy, who does all the research for us, has discussed his challenges with the neurodiversity recently. Had a really positive response from the industry. So yeah, I mean, it needn't hold you back at all in the music industry. In many ways, it's quite a creative alternative sort of area. So there are lots of roles out there that are, you know, are open and achievable, definitely. Like Andy, like I say, my colleague who runs all our research, has been very open talking about his journey on that. So really interesting, you know, to hear about his experiences. Great question here. Next, what was your biggest hurdle or challenge when getting into the industry? So what would you, anyone face any challenges? I'll start super quick. Mine was, I actually grew up in West Wales, and my job that I got at UK Music was in London. So I ended up having to move to London, which I never thought I'd have to do. Now I work remotely. There's a lot more people understand the ability to work remotely now. So that's a real positive that's happened. Dylan.
Yeah, I think those hurdles for everybody are quite an individual thing, right? And everybody will face their own challenges. I think it's probably important to see the hurdle as a challenge, right? A challenge to be accepted and to almost use it to motivate you to continue to work hard. I think for me, the biggest thing was sort of just allowing myself to dedicate enough time to growing my skill set without compromising the kind of networking and still pushing myself out there to do work at the same time, which I guess eventually allowed me to kind of put myself in a position of, okay, I'm going out there to do some work and I'm confident in my skill set enough that I can really show this person who's employing me that what I can do and have a good impact on that person who's employing me, so that hopefully, you know, they phone up again. You know, I think balancing is perhaps the key term there. Is just balancing all of those things, especially from a freelance perspective, is a massive hurdle. But once you kind of begin to jump that hurdle, things start to fall into place really nicely.
Brilliant, thanks, Don. Brie or Chloe, any challenges or hurdles?
I would say a challenge for me, especially with the internship, was more so just the saturation. There was just so many other people also going for that same role. And so kind of to Dylan's point, just diversifying my skill set and having things in my pocket, like knowing how to use Photoshop, knowing how to use other platforms that would really kind of set me apart. Definitely finding a specific sector that I wanted to like master and become a specialist at. Those are the things that I think make you your own and adds value to, yeah, whatever company you want to join.
Excellent. Thanks, Brie. I mean, interestingly, of course, as well, tech, data, you know, socials is also, there's so much of it now needed, those skills needed in music and creative industries. So, you know, all those people are watching this now will be ahead of the game, really. So, you know, bear that in mind. Chloe.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest hurdle for me was just coming in as an intern, is actually accepting the fact that you are an intern and you're there to learn and trying to ask loads of questions. Because when you go in as an intern, sometimes you do know that there is a possibility for them to keep you at the end of your internship, but just also knowing that as much as you have to prove your worth, you're there to learn and you're there to ask questions, and no question is a silly question. And that was like a really big hurdle that I had to overcome.
No, excellent. That's great, and that resonates again with the point Dylan and Brie have made about, you know, engaging with the topic. You know, be interested and be that person that they want to invite back, because the music industry, you know, you get to know people, the reputation. You know, you're building it now. If you're out there and you're interested in music and you're maybe playing music with your friends or putting on gigs or interested in the industry, you know, get to know the industry, follow us on socials, look at all our members, but also those opportunities you get, really embrace them and do well. You know, it's an old cliche, but be nice and people want to invite you back. So bit of a cliche there, but it's always good to have a few cliches, some truth in cliches. This goes into the next question. What would you describe as some of the key skills you need to succeed in the music industry? Anyone want to jump in with some key skills?
Gosh, for international, definitely organization. Just where I'm balancing, let's say right now, there's 9 active campaigns that I've got. So just knowing where I am with each one, I'm having time management, but also prioritization. So knowing, okay, this task could actually wait till tomorrow, this needs to be done now, and just managing and balancing them out that way. I definitely feel like that's a key skill set and transferable. So
Definitely, thanks.
I would definitely agree with that. And I think equally on top of that, I guess if and or when the workload becomes you know, a lot and maybe even unmanageable at times, knowing how to pace yourself and communicate to your clients. You know, I know you wanted this yesterday, however, I'm working on X, Y, and Z, so I promise I'll be able to get it to you by tomorrow, or whatever. Keeping people in the know and in the loop about what's going on will, I think, from experience, directly aid your organization. I think also general kind of skill sets, I think you could kind of refer to them as soft skills, I guess. Like you said, Ollie, being nice, knowing how to talk to people. From my perspective, being a little bit of a mind reader, knowing, you know, how to interpret maybe a musician's body language, how to maybe anticipate what's coming next. You know, if I've got a musician on a stage in front of me and it's, you know, it's a very specific scenario, but maybe they sound like they're a bit out of tune, maybe what they're hearing on stage isn't accurate enough, or isn't enough, and that falls onto me to improve that. So yeah, quite a wide range of soft skills, I would say.
But yeah, definitely. We've had loads of great questions coming in. One that's specific about video games and film that actually applies to all of us, I think. How do you connect with organisations that focus on, I mean, the question says music, video games, or film, but I mean, we can all talk about that from our perspectives. I guess, I mean, we represent a lot of industry members. A great way to meet people is to get along to those industry events. You know, follow, like I said, follow them on socials, get to know what's happening in the industry. There's loads of newsletters you can sign up to know what's happening. And basically, back to the point I made earlier, your local, your first network, everyone watching this, are your mates in your school, those people you're working with, and you know, that's your first network. Then your next network is maybe your school, your town, people you haven't met yet, and then beyond that is the national organisations and the local organisations that support you. Maybe your local youth club, maybe your local venue, and then people like us as well. So, anyone else, Chloe?
So I'd say if you want to connect with a lot of organisations that are in video games, I actually think one of the best places is actually Twitter. So in Twitter, there's a lot of video games people, a lot of game devs, and lots of people you can collab with, or you can just repost a lot of our job postings on there as well. So I'd say keep an eye on Twitter, but obviously you've got to be present yourself, but obviously don't put yourself in a negative light, and be careful of that.
No, definitely. Unfortunately, we're really running out of time. This is terrible. Loads of great questions. I'm so sorry we can't answer them all. A really interesting question, which we'll probably have to finish on. It's just, I'm saying I found some parents influence young people's decisions about pursuing a career in music, then they won't make any money in it. Do you face any sort of influences in your life trying to put you off a career, and how did you handle it? How were your experiences when you decided you wanted to go into music, from friends, family?
I guess on the contrary, was quite lucky in that I come from quite a musical family. So my family were very supportive in that. But from a teacher's perspective, I've seen those scenarios where you know, you speak to family members or even, you know, even students who have enrolled in a course because they're hopeful that it brings something for them, but they're worried. You know, especially at the moment with things like cost of living crisis and that kind of stuff. I think the key thing to kind of look at is more than anything is the stats, right? People like ourselves, you know, even anywhere from like your kind of indie bands all the way up to kind of top touring musicians in the world, there's definitely an industry there. And yeah, it can be difficult to kind of prove at a base level, perhaps to maybe people who aren't musical as well, if it's something new to the family or something like that. But definitely try and get hold of the stats, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and look at our website. There's loads of stats on there. Creative industries are growing, very strong. Music industry is bouncing back after COVID. It was always really strong beforehand. So don't let sort of doubters put you off. And we're going to have to wrap up very shortly. Any final points anyone would like to make? Chloe, Bree, Dylan?
I just wanted to double down on what you and Chloe said. I actually didn't share, but when I went for the Sony internship, I actually wasn't successful the first time round, but the talent acquisition manager was so impressed with just, again, the experience and the way I put myself out there. She kept my CV on board. And by the time I finished uni, she reached back out to me. And that's when I got an interview and I was successful and I got into the internship. So really just to keep trying, definitely don't let the first knock, keep you from trying again, and just be really nice to people because they will remember you when an opportunity arises. So that's my encouragement.
Yeah, I think off the back of that, it can be so easy to fall into the trap of like thinking what you're not doing is good enough or comparing yourself to others around you. When I think probably deep down we all know that it's really important to be confident in what you're doing and trust yourself and know that you get out exactly what you put in. So if you're willing to work really hard and like we've been saying, put yourself out there, then there's absolutely no reason why you can't make a career in music work for you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you all.